There's a sound you hear across Florida right now, but it isn't the gentle lull of waves on the shore or the rustle of palm fronds in the salt-tinged air. It's a silence, a deep, profound quiet that has settled over neighborhoods that, just 2 years ago, were crackling with the frenetic energy of a modern-day gold rush. It's the silence of a phone that never rings for a new listing. The silence of an open house where the only footsteps belong to the lonely real estate agent. It is the sound of thousands of for sale signs, their vibrant colors slowly fading under the relentless sun, standing as monuments to a dream that has been put on hold. In the fever dream of 2021, they came in waves. Families from New York, California, Illinois, selling high where they lived and rolling that cash into what was sold to them as the ultimate sunshine paradise. They arrived with hope, with their entire life savings, with an unshakable belief that they were buying not just a property, but a piece of permanence. They paid whatever it took, waived inspections on aging buildings, fought in brutal bidding wars for condos that seemed to appreciate by the hour, their value climbing higher and higher into the stratosphere. They weren't just buying a home, they were buying a future that glittered. Today, for so many, that future has collapsed into the present, and it looks terrifyingly different. The glittering promise has been replaced by the cold, hard reality of a spreadsheet, and for many, it feels like the walls are closing in. Part 1. The Invisible Hurricane. What happened? It wasn't a storm you could see on a weather map, with a name and a projected path. It was an invisible hurricane, a financial force that made landfall not on the coast, but inside the banks, on the computer screens of lenders across the nation. It started with a single number, 6%. Then it climbed to 7%, the mortgage rate, an unseen, unstoppable force that suddenly, almost overnight, turned the key in a lock that millions of American families could no longer afford to open. The frenzy just stopped. It was like a switch was flipped. The out-of-state cash that had acted as rocket fuel for the market began to run dry. The regular Floridians, the nurses, the teachers, the small business owners, the very people who are the backbone of the state, were left standing on the sidelines. They were staring at a new kind of math, the brutal arithmetic of a 7% world. A modest 2-bedroom condo, one that felt achievable just a year prior, now commanded a monthly payment that would swallow a teacher's entire paycheck. The American dream of home ownership, here in the Sunshine State, was suddenly priced for a different class of citizen. And so, the silence grew. Those for sale signs, once gone in a single weekend, began to linger. First for 30 days, then 60. Now, in city after city, these sun-bleached signs stand guard over empty driveways for 90, even 120 days, becoming permanent fixtures in the landscape of a stalled market. We're witnessing the ghosts of "sold" signs past haunt every street corner. Sellers who once held all the cards, who could name any price and watch buyers line up, are now the ones making the desperate phone calls. They're slashing prices by $20,000, $30,000, $50,000. They are watching the equity they celebrated just months ago, the wealth they thought they had secured for their children, evaporate like morning mist on the hot asphalt. Part 2. Ground Zero. The condo collapse. But this isn't just a gentle market correction. To understand the true depth of the crisis, you have to look closer, at the epicenter of the implosion, the Florida condo market. What is happening here isn't just a slowdown. It is a structural collapse, in ways no one saw coming. Let's start in Sarasota. Long seen as the crown jewel of the Gulf Coast. Just 2 years ago, condos here fetched $600,000 without hesitation. Today, Those exact same units are struggling to find a buyer at $420,000. That's a staggering 30% haircut. But the price is only half the story. The real nightmare is the cost of carrying that property. Waterfront condo insurance policies that once cost $3,000 annually now exceed $9,000. Older high-rises, now under the microscope of new state laws passed in the wake of the tragic Surfside collapse, are demanding massive structural repairs. Owners are being blindsided by surprise $40,000 special assessments, a bill that, for a retiree on a fixed income, is nothing short of a financial death sentence. But it's not just the wealthy coastal cities. The pain is arguably even worse in the places that were supposed to be affordable. Travel inland, to a town like Deltona, wedged between Orlando and Daytona Beach. This was sold during the boom as the perfect gateway city for middle-class families priced out of the major metros. Today, Deltona is ground zero. Median condo prices that peaked at $240,000 have collapsed to just $160,000. A catastrophic 32% plunge. That's not a dip. That's a wipeout of years of equity. Even at that lower price, ownership is impossible for most. With HOA fees doubling and insurance tripling, that modest Deltona condo now eats up more than $2,000 a month before the mortgage. In a city where the median household income is just $58,000, it's a cruel joke. The dream of affordable Florida living has turned into a trap they can't escape. And this story repeats itself, city after city. In Bradenton, a brutal 30% drop. In Crestview, a small panhandle city, a devastating 32% decline. In Orlando, the land of Disney dreams, a 25% gut-wrenching fall from the peak. The magic is gone. It's been replaced by financial gravity. Part 3. The Great Divide. Two Floridas emerge. This crisis hasn't created one Florida. It has fractured it into two. On one side, there is the Florida of the family that bought at the peak in 2022. They're now trapped, underwater on their mortgage, owing more than their home is worth. Every month they write a check that feels heavier than the last, paying for a home that is shrinking in value, while the cost to maintain it skyrocket. They are paralyzed. They can't sell without taking a massive loss, and they can't afford to stay. For them, this is a waking nightmare of collapsing values and evaporating hope. But then, there is the other Florida, the one the headlines aren't showing you. This is the Florida that belongs to the patient, to the strategic, to the cash buyer, to the private equity fund, to the investor who understands a simple, brutal market truth. One person's crisis is another person's opportunity. We analyze the market data, and the numbers are staggering. Redfin recently revealed that in Miami, for every single person looking to buy a home, there are nearly 3 people desperately trying to sell one. Let that sink in. The power has shifted so completely, so violently, that it's created the most buyer-friendly market in the entire country. In Tampa, there are 118% more sellers than buyers. In Jacksonville, 119%. A sea of inventory, a flood of desperation, with almost no traditional buyers in sight. And in that vacuum, a new predator has emerged. Part 4. The shadow market. A transfer of wealth. Beneath the silence of the mainstream market, something else is stirring. A different kind of activity. It's quieter, more calculated. The shadow market. Investors and cash funds are moving in, not with the loud, chaotic frenzy of 2021, but with the quiet precision of a hunter. They aren't interested in the brand new listings with hopeful sellers. Their strategy is far more targeted. An agent we spoke with in Tampa, who wished to remain anonymous, put it bluntly. We set up alerts. 30 days on the market. That's the magic number. After a month with no bites, you can feel the seller's confidence start to crack. By 60 days, they're not just nervous, they're scared. These buyers aren't just offering below asking price. They are rewriting the rules of the deal. They're demanding concessions, a word that was laughed out of the room 2 years ago. We're seeing deals close 7–10% below list, the agent told us. But that's just the start. The buyers are demanding the seller pay all of their closing costs. They're asking for $15,000 in cash back at closing, which they use to immediately buy down their interest rate. The sellers have no choice. They have to say yes. This isn't just happening with single units. We're seeing investment firms from New York and California, the very places these families fled, now coming into Florida and buying up entire blocks of unsold condos. They see past the immediate pain of high interest rates because they aren't borrowing money. They're using cash. They are playing a long game, a game the average family cannot afford to play. They are patiently acquiring the dream that regular people are being forced to forfeit. Part 5. The Future of Paradise. So what is the real story of Florida right now? It isn't just a housing downturn. It isn't a market correction. It is a great wealth transfer, happening silently, in plain sight. It is a story about the widening, unbridgeable chasm between those who need a loan and those who do not. The tide of cheap money that lifted all boats has gone out. And now, standing on the exposed ocean floor, we see who has been left behind. On one side, you have the families whose dreams of sunshine and security are being crushed by the brutal math of this new economy. And on the other, you have a new class of owner, the investor, who is calmly collecting the keys to those broken dreams, often for pennies on the dollar. This isn't a forecast. It is an observation of what is happening on the ground right now. The very fabric of Florida communities is being rewoven. Neighborhoods once filled with homeowners, people with a vested, long-term interest in their community, are slowly being transformed into rental portfolios, owned by distant, faceless corporations, where the only metric that matters is the monthly return on investment. The only thing that matters is the number in the spreadsheet, where emotion has no column. The repriced dream. The silence you hear across Florida isn't the sound of a market that is broken. It is the sound of a market being repriced and repossessed. It is the sound of the American dream being auctioned off to the highest cash bidder. And it forces us to ask a difficult, unsettling question. When the financial storm finally passes, when the rates eventually fall and the music starts playing again, who will be left to own this paradise? Will the dream of a life in the sun still be attainable for the many? Or will it have become just another well-performing asset for the very few?